Are you ready? Okay, we're ready? We're done.
Yes.
We're on. Okay. All right. This week we're going to do the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils, which is the last Go Show lecture by President Keita in volume 4 of Teachings for Victory. And the next volume of Teachings for Victory, volume 5, okay, will start in a week or 2. Okay, I'll let you know. Anybody that hasn't gotten this and wants to follow along by having one, you've still got a week or 2 to get one. We aren't there yet. It'll take us a couple of weeks to finish this, tonight and next week.
Yeah.
But the title of tonight's Go Show is The 3 Obstacles and the 4 Devils. Does anybody know what that means in Japanese? How do you say that in Japanese?
Sancho Shima.
Sancho Shima. We were raised on Sancho Shima, right? I mean, I got hit with a lot of Sancho Shima this week. Oh, he's experiencing Sancho Shima. She's experiencing Sancho Shima. I mean, that's essentially anything bad that happened or anything that created difficulty.
Yeah.
In our young practices, we always refer to as, Sancho Shima.
Yeah.
Okay. In reality, the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils actually appear to those that are on a serious path toward Buddhahood. It doesn't come from casual membership in the Soka Gakkai or casual practice. Those kinds of difficulties or obstacles, okay, are a little bit different than the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils, which are kind of specific. And where do the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils come from? Does anybody know? Is that Nichiren's teaching? The 3 obstacles and the 4 devils? Is there some teaching that precedes Nichiren's that talks about this? Actually, it's from the Makashikan. It's from Tiantai. Okay? So that's why when we talk about 3 obstacles and 4 devils, we don't really talk about Sancho Shima so much anymore now, right? President Keita's kind of shifted into devilish functions as a catch-all to express this more completely, because this comes in a variety of processes, mechanisms, or experiences, okay? So it's not like 3 obstacles, 4 devils, okay? It's like everything that you might encounter in the course of your practice in your faith that would potentially knock you off the path to Buddhahood. That's what this is all about. The objective of those 3 obstacles and 4 devils is to stop you from being able to attain enlightenment, okay? So if you've already attained Buddhahood, frankly, you've already faced the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils and continue to win over them, because frankly, in the event that you weren't, you'd be Titan. Right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by then, and the Go Show is the 3 obstacles and 4 devils. It's to the Ikegami brothers. Everybody knows who they are. We'll talk about them in the background. Let me first, though, just to clarify one more time, the 3 Sancho Shima. Okay? Various obstacles and hindrances to the practice of Buddhism. So what's a hindrance?
Hesitate.
No, it's something that holds you back. It's something that holds you back, okay? So it's to stop progress. To be hindered would be to have your progress stopped, okay? So it says various obstacles. We know what an obstacle is. Hindrances would be inherently difficult. Shit happens. Okay. They are listed in the Nirvana Sutra and the Treatise on the Great Perfection of Wisdom. The 3 obstacles are the obstacle of earthly desires, or obstacles arising from the 3 poisons of greed, anger, and foolishness. Right? That's delusion, correct? Delusion to the true nature of all things. 2 out of the 3 obstacles. The second obstacle is the obstacle of karma. Obstacles due to bad karma created by committing any of the 5 cardinal sins or 10 evil acts. And the obstacle of retribution caused by the negative karmic effects of actions in the 3 evil paths. In a letter addressed to the Ikegami brothers in 1275, happens to be what we're reading tonight, the obstacle of earthly desires, Nichiren states, the obstacle of earthly desires is the impediment to one's practice that arise from greed, anger, and foolishness. Okay, from delusion, all right, and the like. Okay, the obstacle of karma is the hindrance presented by one's wife or children. Now, in saying so, he's talking about by one's familial associations. All right? Right? Because, again, at the time that this is being written, family is everything, right? There are no nobody goes and lives off 20 miles away, right? And the obstacle of retribution is the hindrance caused by one's sovereign or parents. Now, why is retribution in there under sovereign or parents? Because, again, in this time, parents could take away all your shit. You know, you could be disinherited, right? So that's the obstacle of retribution. Your parents oppose you, which is what we're going to be discussing tonight as it relates to the Ikegami brothers, or anything that opposes your practice, right? Do you understand? That would be a hindrance then to your faith, correct?
Yeah.
All right, so caused by one's sovereign or parents. The four devils, so those were the three obstacles. The four devils are the hindrance of the five components, obstructions caused by one's physical and mental functions. Okay, this would be karma that you carried forward from, obviously, the past into this lifetime. 2, the hindrance of earthly desires, obstructions arising from the three poisons. 3, the hindrance of death, meaning one's own untimely death, obstructing one's practice of Buddhism, or the premature death of another practitioner causing one to doubt, because this is all about anything that makes you stop or slow down or quit proceeding forward, all right? And then the hindrance of the devil king, who is said to assume various forms or take possession of others in order to cause one to discard one's Buddhist practice. This hindrance is regarded as the most difficult to overcome. Tiantai states in Great Concentration and Insight, as practice progresses and understanding grows, the three obstacles and four devils emerge in confusing form, vying with one another to interfere. One should be neither influenced nor frightened by them. If one falls under their influence, one will be led into the paths of evil. If one is frightened by them, one will be prevented from practicing the correct teaching. So even as far back as Tiantai, he said that when you go into the process of trying to attain Buddhahood through the Makashikan, through the Lotus Sutra, but through the Great Concentration and Insight that he wrote about as this last of his three great volumes of teachings. He's saying that these emerge in confusing form, vying with one another to interfere. So he said, again, qualifying that as practice progresses and understanding grows, that's what brings these out. These aren't just a reflection of karma and everyday karma, okay? And then in addition, he's qualifying again. Where does Nichiren get his entire input to all of his disciples and for himself to understand how to go about dealing with this in the latter day of the law? Because Nichiren is dealing with all kinds of Sancho Shima, right?
Right.
So his whole thing is to understand from Tiantai's teaching that this is going to be coming. That's why he wasn't freaked out when it hit him. It had already been prescribed in the Makashikan as something that will occur to anybody that's actually about to attain Buddhahood. And the Daishonin could see that the fifth 500-year period had already, millennium was already here, right? The fifth 500-year period had already arisen. So those are the three obstacles and four devils. And as you can see, they even quoted from a Gosho to the Ikegami brothers. Now, the Ikegami brothers' dad was a small kind of retainer. Let's go to the background. This Gosho is on page 636 of volume 1. All right? And we're going to go to the background on 639. Okay, this letter, background, page 639. You with me, dear?
Okay. Wait.
You got it?
Okay.
Okay. This letter was written to Hyoe no Sakin Muenaka with the G. Okay, when you got the two brothers, the younger one was with the G, Muenaga, and Muenaka is the older one. The younger of the two Ikegami brothers, though it was originally thought to have been written in the first year of Kinji, it is now apparent that it was written in 1277. Muenaga is thought to have taken faith in the Daishonin's teachings around 1256, shortly after his elder brother Muenaka. Both were officials in the Kamakura shogunate, and their father, Yasumitsu, was the director of the government's Office of Construction and Repairs. Okay? So their dad had sort of an important job. Yasumitsu was a loyal follower of the priest Ryokan of the True Word Precept School, who was highly active in political affairs. And what's that I shown and referred to Ryokan as all the time? What's the name that he uses for Ryokan? Does everybody understand who Ryokan is? Ryokan's the third of the three powerful enemies.
Right.
Okay? Ryokan's very seriously important. He's the one that actually qualifies the Daishonin's teaching by virtue of that opposition. Ryokan was behind all kinds of bad things.
Right.
All right? But again, he calls him Two Fires because of the name. His name, Ryokan, kind of rhymes with Ryoka or something like that. So he puts him down all the time. All right? But again, Ryokan was definitely trying to get the Daishonin executed. Okay, and was definitely involved in the not only the Tatsunokuchi persecution, but also the most specifically Datsuhara persecution. Okay, so he strenuously, talking about the dad again. Yasumitsu was a loyal follower of the priest Rokan of the True Word Precept School, who was highly active in political affairs. Rokan was the fancy Dan of the day. He strenuously opposed their beliefs and disowned Muinaka twice. The dad did. In 1275 and again in 1277. All right? By disowning Muinaka, Yasumitsu, in effect, was provoking a rift between the two sons, tempting the weaker Muinaga to trade his beliefs for the right to inherit his father's estate. Supported by the Daishonin's guidance and encouragement, however, Muinaga upheld his faith together with his brother, and in 1278, after a total of 22 years of practice, their united efforts finally led their father to accept faith in the Daishonin's teachings. Okay? Never give up. Okay? But the whole key is that, why do you never give up? Because you never give in to doing what you're supposed to do, doing what the right thing is, and the right thing is to always hold your faith and practice above all other conditions. He's not saying disrespect your wife and children, or disrespect your sovereign and parents here. Right? That's what this whole Gosho is about. Don't forget, he's already written one Gosho to them before this one, called Letter to the Brothers. I think we've already read that, haven't we? Okay, so he's already explained to them that this is. Have we read Letter to the Brothers yet? Okay, I thought so. So he's already explained to them that the opposition that they're getting is the opposition that any votary of the Lotus Sutra receives. And that's why Muinaka is going, Dad, got to do it again, sorry. Okay? And that's what's led this to this point, because the dad's already taken the son Muinaka, the older one, back once. You don't hear much about Muinaka in a lot of other places, do you? But the one thing about Muinaka is he had some badass faith, because he was giving up his entire inheritance for the sake of doing what he wanted to do, which was to progress in his belief in the Daishonin's teaching and supporting the Lotus Sutra. Okay, so going to the Gosho then, on page 636. All right? All right, the three obstacles and four devils. The two men you sent have arrived here. By the way, he's writing to the younger brother Muinaga, right? Okay. The two men you have sent arrived here, bringing your various offerings. So Muinaga's still making offerings. He's not like splitting with the Daishonin at this point in time at all, even though the father's in opposition. He's just sent him a couple of horse loads of stuff, right? He says, the two men you have sent have arrived here, bringing your various offerings. I have also heard that the priest Ben has written about your sincerity in his letter. I also heard that the priest Ben has written about your sincerity in his letter to you. Okay? In this letter, I want to advise you about what is most important for you. Okay? Muinaga. In the former and the middle days of the law, the world did not fall into decline, because sages and worthies appeared frequently, and the heavenly gods protected the people. In the latter day of the law, however, people have become so greedy that strife rages incessantly between sovereign and subject, parent and child, elder and younger brother, and all the more so among people who are unrelated. So, my friend Bhumika, this whole Gosho is going to relate to you and your sister. He says, when such conflict occurs, the gods abandon the country, and then the three calamities and seven disasters begin, until 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 suns appear in the sky. Now, this is from the previous sutras, right? Right. Plants and trees wither and die. Large and small rivers dry up. The earth smolders like charcoal, and the sea becomes like boiling oil. Eventually, flames fill the atmosphere, arising from the hell of incessant suffering and reaching the Brahma heaven. Such is the devastation that will occur when the world reaches its final dissolution.
We are close.
Well, not only are we close, but once again, had modern science been born yet? In the 13th century Japan? All right, did he not just discuss what happens when a supernova occurs? He did. He just now talked about a supernova. Basically, that's exactly how the Earth is going to disappear. So the sutras have a parallel to the reality that science bears out in terms of how the universe is actually constructed. The sutras say it goes on forever and ever and ever. No other philosophy other than science is the thing that backs that up. Do you understand? So I think that's pretty significant. I always marvel at, my God, that's so cool that they could have had that kind of insight into the truth. So continuing, bottom page, column 1, 636. Everyone, regardless of rank or status, considers it natural for children to obey their father, for subjects to be loyal to their sovereign, and for disciples to follow their teacher. Recently, however, it appears that the people of our day, drunk with the wine of greed, anger, and foolishness, drunk on the wine of delusion, as to the true nature of life, make it a rule to betray their sovereign, despise their parents, and scoff at their teachers. Arrogance. You should read again and again the previous letter in which I explained that one should, of course, obey one's teacher. Now again, he says, you should read again and again the previous letter in which I explained. So what he's talking about, what is that letter? The letter to the brothers. It was to both of them, right? Right. So he's saying to Muinaga, you should read that letter over and over and over, okay? In which I explained that one should, of course, obey one's teacher, sovereign, and parent, but should they commit wrongs, admonishing them is in fact being loyal to them. Everybody's with me on that point, correct? Right? Recently, your elder brother, and he uses his formal name, Ume no Seiken, was again disowned by your father. I told your wife when she came to visit me here that he was certain to be disowned again, that I was apprehensive about how it would affect you, Hyoe no Saken, and that she should be prepared for the worst. This was that I shown his teachers to Muinaga's, that I shown his advice to Muinaga's wife. This time, I am sure that you will give up your faith. If you do, I have not the slightest intention of reproaching you for it. In other words, so we've already gone through this once. I already wrote you the letter. I already told you all this stuff. If you decide to go against what I specifically advised you, I'm letting go. Okay? So understand, if you cross that line, you cross that line with me as well. I have to be that strict with you for your own good. He says, this time I am sure that you will give up your faith. If you do, I have not the slightest intention of reproaching you for it. Likewise, neither should you blame me, Nichiren, when you have fallen into hell. It is no way my responsibility. It is an undeniable fact that that fire can at once reduce even a 1,000-year-old field of pampas grass to ashes, and that the merit one has formed over 100 years can be destroyed with a single word. So he says, I don't control your karma. You do. Okay? I've told you straight up what the real deal is. Now you've got to have the insight, the faith that your older brother is expressing right now to buy into that 100% and to live your life based on that understanding. Or else you're disrespecting not only me, but the teachings that preceded me. All right? He says, and all the fortune that we can create always, we already know, most of us in personal experience have had something. You say one thing you didn't really mean, and it could destroy a whole relationship forever. Right? So he's saying, your father, Seiman no Taiyu, now seems to have become an enemy of the Lotus Sutra because he's opposing your brother's faith. Yet your brother Uman no Takusaken will now become one of its votaries because he's renouncing everything in order to uphold his faith. All right? He says, you who think only of immediate affairs will obey your father, and deluded people will therefore praise you for your filial devotion. Munemori obeyed his father's tyrannous commands and was finally beheaded at Shinohara. Shigemori disobeyed his father and preceded him in death. Who was truly the filial son? If you obey your father, who is an enemy of the Lotus Sutra, and abandon your brother, who is a votary of the one vehicle, are you then being filial? He's saying, think about it. Use your own head. How does this make sense? In the final analysis, what you should do is resolve to pursue the Buddha way, single-mindedly, just as your brother is doing. Single-mindedly means no matter what, right? Your father is like King Wonderful Adornment. Does everybody remember King Wonderful Adornment from the Lotus Sutra when we read it? He's the king that didn't quite get it, but his two sons kept after it forever. Pure Storehouse and Pure Eye kept after it forever and ever, and they finally converted their dad. So he's saying you should be just like those two guys from the Lotus Sutra as it relates to your determination that no matter what it takes, no matter what lifetime it occurs, you're going to convert the people that are closest to you. Those people that have occurred in your life as relatives, okay? In the final analysis, what you should do is resolve to pursue the Buddha way single-mindedly, just as your brother is doing. Above all things, your father is like King Wonderful Adornment, and you brothers are like the princes Pure Storehouse and Pure Eye. The age is different, but the principle of the Lotus Sutra remains the same. Recently, the lay priest of Musashi abandoned his vast territory and his many subjects in order to retire from all worldly affairs. If you ingratiate yourself with your father for the sake of a small private estate, neglect your faith, and fall into the evil paths, you should not blame me, Nichiren. Yet despite my warnings, I feel that this time you will discard your belief. So now you got to understand, okay? Munagas just sent him 2 horse loads of stuff, right? Yeah. His wife's been up there bringing him stuff. And now he's coming down on him like a ton of bricks and saying, I already know you're probably going to blow this off, right? He's actually setting him up because you're going to see later in the letter he changes where he's coming from. But right now he sounds very like, if you're going to do that, then don't bother me. Right? Page 637, first column. He says, I state this in this manner out of pity, because though you have been faithful until now, you may still fall into the evil paths, because any of us can go Titan. That's why we can never say that we were bodhisattvas of the earth till the last moment of our life. We have to live that to the last moment of our life to qualify for that. He says, if by one chance out of 100 or 1,000 you should decide to follow my teaching, what I'm saying to you now, what I wrote to you in that letter, then confront your father and declare, since you are my father, I should by rights obey you. But since you have become an enemy of the Lotus Sutra, I would be unfilial if I were to do so in this matter. Therefore, I have resolved to break with you and follow my brother. If you should disown him, be aware that you are disowning me too. And Daishonin is very specifically giving him like really a no-out kind of a single, there's only one way to do this, and that's to support your older brother and to tell your dad this isn't going to work. Right? He says, you should not have, and this is why I have it underlined. Well, he just now can you imagine Muinagas hearing him say, oh shit, you're telling me I got to go up against dad again. Oh, God. He says, but then what's the next thing that Daishonin says after he told him that that's what he really has to do? This is what you should say and this is what you should do. He says, you should not have the slightest fear in your heart. It is a lack of courage that prevents one from attaining Buddhahood, although one may have professed faith in the Lotus Sutra many times since innumerable kalpas ago. And why does he say it that way? This is the key, because that's the whole basis of the title. What keeps you from becoming a Buddha in any lifetime after you've encountered the law? After you've gone from becoming a Buddha in theory to become...
Obstacles.
Huh?
Obstacles.
Yeah, you didn't make it to the 6th stage because the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils kicked your ass.
Right.
Okay? That's what happened lifetime after lifetime since innumerable kalpas ago. That's what he's talking about. You've been getting your ass kicked. You've encountered it again in this lifetime. You think, how could you have encountered it in this lifetime if you haven't encountered it in previous lifetimes? But you haven't attained Buddhahood. So, of course you were on the path to Buddhahood. That's why these 3 obstacles and 4 devils come out. But you've never been brave enough, is what he's saying. You should not have the slightest fear in your heart when you're doing these kinds of things for the sake of the law, for the sake of your faith, for the sake of upholding your faith in my teaching, by being the living example, by going against the grain of what makes sense. This is all counterintuitive. Okay? He's saying, you should not have the slightest fear in your heart. Did Daishonin show that? No. Was he facing scary shit all the time? Yeah. Do you think he didn't feel fear? Bullshit. I think he did feel fear. Did he ever express fear? No. Because he knew he had to be the example and be fearless to show people how to be fearless when they're feeling fear. Because it's not natural not to feel fear.
Right.
Okay? You got to be a moron to not ever be alarmed by difficulties. Okay? That's not what this is about. This is about a deep level of faith. That this is just something that's allowing me to express my genuine, true identity, my Buddhahood. It is a lack of courage that prevents one from attaining Buddhahood, because the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils win. Although one may have professed faith in the Lotus Sutra many times since innumerable kalpas ago, but you didn't have the faith to battle these guys. 2nd column, page 637. There is definitely something extraordinary in the ebb and flow of the tide, the rising and setting of the moon, and the way in which summer, autumn, winter, and spring give way to each other. What's he saying there? No one can really explain the workings of the universe, but they're so consistent and never changing that it's mind-blowing. He's saying something uncommon also. So as mysterious as the seasons coming every time, and the earth, and all this stuff that has to do with the universe, it's outside the realm of humanity. He's saying, not understandable as that is, as mysterious as that is, he says this also is just as mysterious. Something uncommon also occurs when an ordinary person attains Buddhahood. At such a time, the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils will invariably appear, and the wise will rejoice while the foolish will retreat. Why will the wise rejoice? Now, why do the foolish retreat? I have long been waiting to tell you this. He says, as Daishonin says in this letter, to Muinaga, I have long been waiting to tell you this, either through my own messenger or by some other means. So I greatly appreciate your sending these messengers to me. I am sure that, he says now, if you were about to abandon your faith, you would not have sent them. Okay, so I've been giving you all this shit, but dude, I don't disrespect you. I know where your heart is. All right? He says, thinking it may still not be too late, I am writing you this letter. Okay? So, but again, what is he saying here when he says there's something definitely extraordinary? He's saying that this cycle of resistance of the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils are part of the universal cycle of life. He's comparing them to the reality of the seasonal change and the ebb and flow of the tides and all this natural phenomena that occurs in life. All right? So they are not, they are part of that. All right? He says, so going on. To attain Buddhahood, is difficult indeed, more difficult than the feat of placing a needle atop the Mount Sumeru of this world, and then casting a thread from atop the Mount Sumeru of another world directly through the eye of this needle. And the feat is even more difficult if it must be done in the face of a contrary wind. The Lotus Sutra states 10,000 kalpas, an inconceivable time will pass before at last one can hear this Lotus Sutra. That's how rare this is, Muenaga. That's why it's so difficult, Muenaga. 1,010,000 kalpas, an inconceivable time will pass before the Buddha's world-honored ones preached this sutra. Therefore, its practitioners, after the Buddha has entered extinction, when they hear a sutra like this, should entertain no doubts or perplexities. This passage is extremely unusual even among the 28 chapters of the Lotus Sutra. From the introduction to the Teacher of the Law chapters, human and heavenly beings, the 4 kinds of believers, and the 8 kinds of non-human beings, those at the stage of near perfect enlightenment or below, were many in number. But there was only one Buddha, the thus come one Shakyamuni. Thus, these chapters are of great import, but may appear insignificant. The 12 chapters from Treasure Tower to Entrustment are the most important of all. Why do we know? What do we know from that? What's he trying to tell Muenaga? What phenomena is he talking about right now to Muenaga as he speaks those words? That's the emergence of the bodhisattvas of the earth. Okay, that's the basis of the essential teaching, right? And of Mappo. It says, the 12 chapters from the Treasure Tower to Entrustment are the most important of all. This is because it is in these chapters that in the presence of Shakyamuni Buddha, there appeared the treasure tower of many treasures. It was as if the sun had emerged in front of the moon. The Buddhas of the 10 directions were seated under the trees, and it was as if the grasses and trees and the worlds of the 10 directions had been set afire. It was in this setting that the above passage was expounded. What happened when that happened? What was the significance of all of that? What was Shakyamuni doing in the Lotus Sutra at this point in time?
Opening the eyes.
Yes, he was opening their eyes. He was that's what, as far as Shakyamuni's opening of the eyes, that is exactly what his opening of the eyes was. But what was it that he sat there and what did he bring out that had not been known by anybody based on any previous teaching, even in the Lotus Sutra up to this point when we get to Treasure Tower? What happens in Treasure Tower? Huh?
He awakens people to realize they are the Buddha.
No, he's announcing.
He declares that his life is essentially eternal. Okay? And that he attained Buddhahood numberless major world system dust particle kalpas ago. Okay? Right? And many treasures, the treasure tower appears for many treasures to go, excellent, excellent, Shakyamuni, you're finally telling them the truth. I'm here to say everything that he's saying, even though you've never heard him say it before. He's telling you this wonderful Lotus Sutra. And he goes into his whole thing about how hot and it's the final great teaching of the Lotus Sutra, right? So he says, this is because it is in these chapters that in the presence of Shakyamuni there appeared the treasure tower of many treasures. It was as if, so what did that do? That appearance of the treasure tower of many treasures validated the Lotus Sutra's teaching as being the highest teaching of Shakyamuni, because Shakyamuni saying, I have yet to reveal the truth, right? In the Immeasurable Meaning Sutra, he's coming out of the Samadhi, he's going, hey, I still haven't told you the real deal yet. You're all with me, right? Okay. It was in this setting that the above passage was expounded, he's saying. The Nirvana Sutra states, people have been suffering since numberless, uncountable kalpas ago. The bones one leaves behind in a kalpa pile up as high as Mount Vipula near Rajagira. And the milk one sucks is equal to the water of the four seas. The blood one sheds surpasses the quantity of water in the four seas, and so do the tears one sheds in grief over the death of parents, brothers and sisters, wives, children, and relatives. And though one used all the plants and trees growing on the earth to make 4-inch tallies to count them, one could not count all the parents one has had in past existences of life. And what he's talking about there, I guess that they used to like make little sticks out of stuff, and then they would keep them as bundles that they would use for computation, right? So he's saying, if you used up all the wood from all the plants and all the trees, you could never make enough of those little 4-inch sticks, okay? These are the words the Buddha uttered lying in the grove of the sal trees on the final day of his life. These are the words that the Buddha uttered in the Nirvana Sutra, right? They mean that the number of parents who gave birth to you since innumerable kalpas ago could not be counted even with tallies made by cutting all the plants and trees growing on all the worlds of the 10 directions into 4-inch pieces. Thus, you have had a countless number of parents in your past existences. That's why we're supposed to feel all people are, a connection to everybody. Thus you have had a countless number of parents in your past existences, yet during that time you have never encountered the Lotus Sutra. From this we see that it is easy to have parents, but very difficult to encounter the Lotus Sutra. Ooh. Now, if you obey the words of a parent, one who is easy to come by, and follow a friend of the Lotus Sutra who one can be rarely encountered, you will not only be able to attain Buddhahood, Now, if you disobey the words of a parent, who is one who is easy to come by, and follow a friend of the Lotus Sutra, one who can rarely be encountered, you will not only be able to attain Buddhahood, but will also be able to lead to enlightenment the parents whom you disobeyed. For example, Prince Sudathara was the oldest son of King Shuddhodana. His father wanted him to, King Siddhartha was the eldest son of King Shuddhodana. His father wanted him to succeed to the throne and rule the nation, and actually made him crown prince. But the prince went against his father's wishes and escaped from the palace at night. The king was angry at him for being unfilial, but after Siddhartha had attained Buddhahood, he set about first of all to convert his parents, King Suddhodana and Lady Maya. No parent would ever urge his son to renounce the world in order to attain Buddhahood. Fact. But however that may be, in your case, the observers of the precepts and the priests of the Nimbutsu school have egged your father on to join with them so that they may make both you and your brother abandon your faith. I am told that the priest Two Fires, Ryokan, is persuading others to chant 1,000,000 Nimbutsu instead of Daimoku in an attempt to cause discord among people and destroy the seeds of the Lotus Sutra. The lay priest of Gokurakuji seemed to be an admirable person, but deluded by the Nimbutsu priests, he treated me with enmity, and as a result, he and his entire clan have been all but ruined. Only the Lord of Ichigo has survived. You may think that those who believe in the priest Two Fires, Ryokan, are prospering, but you should see what has become of the Nagoe clan, who paid for the building at Zenko-ji Temple, Choraku-ji Temple, and Daibutsu-den. Again, the Lord of Sagami is the ruler of Japan, but by his conduct he has called down on himself an enemy almost as great as the land of Jampadvipa, the Mongols. Right? Mm-hmm. Here, even if you abandon your brother and take place in your father's favor, you will never prosper in 1,000 or 10,000 years. The Daishonin is saying straight up, very cold but straight up. Munaga, if you do this with your dad, you screwed yourself forever. there is no knowing what will become of you even in the near future. How can you be certain of lifelong prosperity? Therefore, you should resolve to give all your thought to your happiness in the next existence. Having written all this, it occurs to me that this letter may be futile, and I tire of going on. Pardon me. Having written all this, it occurs to me that this letter may be futile, and I tire of going on. But it may serve as a reminder to you in the future. With my deep respect, Nichiren, and of course, thank you, Muenaga, but because of you having to go through this, the Daishonin did write this letter, and we got to read it tonight together. Okay, so that's the whole Gosho. On the 20th day of the 11th month, reply to Hyoe no Sake, with my deep respect, Nichiren. Now to go to the Gosho lecture, which is volume 4. And we're going to go to starting on page 135. Okay, and we've already read the whole Gosho, so we skip all the gray box. It says, lecture. Nichiren Daishonin declares the 3 obstacles and 4 devils will invariably appear, and the wise will rejoice while the foolish will retreat. So what did that just say? There's a very key word here in this sentence. Nichiren Daishonin declares the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils will invariably appear, and the wise will rejoice while the foolish will retreat. What's the key word there? For all of you, for all of us.
Rejoice.
We all chant Daimoku, we all do Gongyo, we're all practicing Nichiren Buddhism, we're all practicing the Soka philosophy, hopefully everybody at this table is, right? Right. Okay, so what's the key word from that sentence? The 3 obstacles and 4 devils will invariably appear, and the wise will rejoice while the foolish will retreat. Why would the wise rejoice? Because they already know, they understand the teaching. And the foolish will retreat because even though they understand the teaching, they can't handle the difficulty. But what's the key word to the sentence though?
Rejoice.
Invariably. No,
Invariably.
invariably. What does invariably mean?
The same, constantly the same way.
Well, no matter what the circumstance, they will appear. Okay, invariably means no matter what you do, they are going to give rise. In other words, there's no way to avoid the 3 obstacles and 4 devils and still attain Buddhahood. If your objective is to attain Buddhahood, you must be prepared for them. Okay, and that's why if your objective is to attain Buddhahood, when you meet them, if you're wise, you rejoice. Okay, if you're foolish, you go, oh shit, I'm not being protected. Okay, and you slander the teaching that actually is trying to attain Buddhahood through. All right, in this chapter, we will study the 3 obstacles and 4 devils, which contains this famous passage. In a letter in which he outlines the crucial spirit of faith necessary for practitioners of the mystic law. Pardon me. In this chapter, we will study the 3 obstacles and 4 devils, which contains this famous passage. It is a letter in which he outlines the crucial spirit of faith necessary for practitioners of the mystic law. So what is he saying there? This letter is going to very definitely provide you with insight that you need to key into as an individual practicing in the latter day in order to sustain your faith throughout your life. This is a critical tenet of the Daishonin's teachings. Okay? Though we speak of the 3 obstacles and 4 devils appearing, no one wishes to have to face adversity. This is what I love about President Keita. He's so real. He says, though we speak of the 3 obstacles and 4 devils appearing, no one wishes to have to face adversity. Even me, Daisaku Ikeda. He's saying, I can totally, guys, I know what I'm saying. You're going to all be weirded out a little bit. You're maybe not going to grasp what I'm trying to say. What you're thinking is normal. It's not a problem. Try to understand what I'm saying and where I'm coming from. No one wishes to have to face adversity. This is surely a natural human reaction. But Nichiren Daishonin says that the appearance of the three obstacles and four devils is a source of joy if you have the wisdom to perceive the reality of why they're there. They're not there to punish you as bad karma. They're there to try to keep you from revealing the 10th world in your 9-world life.
Right.
Okay? He says, but Nichiren Daishonin says that the appearance of the three obstacles and four devils is a source of joy. President Keita goes on, how could that be? It doesn't seem possible. But it is, in fact, by overcoming the steep hills and inclines of obstacles that we can forge our lives and ascend the summit of Buddhahood, where we can savor the sublime vista of eternity, happiness, true self, and purity. Because it's through this struggle that we master the teaching. Right? Really, it is. If all we had to do was chant Daimoku and it was licked, boom, boom, 3-time hook and we're done. What would you have the ability to teach? Yeah, only teach 3 Daimoku and you're done. Who would have faith without you having the ability to understand anything? In addition to do that practice. So that's what the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils provide us with the foundation for overcoming shit ourselves rather than relying on what Nichiren did or what Daisaku Ikeda did or what some other Joe did. It's about us showing Buddhahood in our lives, in our real world, to the real people around us. Right? Okay, so he says, my mentor, Josei Toda, first full paragraph of 136, first column, my mentor, Josei Toda, often spoke about the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils. He said their appearance represented the valleys of training and development that lie in between the hills of benefit that we climb on the way to scaling the highest mountain of Buddhahood. God damn, I never heard him say that before. But does that nail it or what? Listen to this. This is it. My mentor, Josei Toda, often spoke about the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils. And I know he did because it's all in lectures on the sutra, right? He said their appearance represented the valleys of training and development. That's what I'm trying to explain. That's where wisdom comes from. Defeating the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils is what allows you to become enlightened. Okay? He said their appearance represented the valleys of training and development as we're progressing to the 6th stage. Get it? Because we can't just go from 1 to 6. It's not even reasonable. We would be very inadequate Buddhas if we didn't know shit. Okay? And you can't know shit unless you've gone through shit. That's a fact, or else you're just quoting history. All right? So he's saying, I'll go on, because this is all orange from here on. Let me go through. My mentor, Josei Toda, often spoke about the 3 obstacles and 4 devils. He said their appearance represented the valleys of training and development that lie in between the hills of benefit, hills, still minor, that we climb on the way to scaling the highest mountain of Buddhahood. You get it? Stage 1 through 5. That's what this all is. Right? Okay. The important thing is how we approach the 3 obstacles and 4 devils. We need to own them. I love it that he said this. Obviously, this is a Western person doing this translation, because this is what he's basically saying. What's he mean by saying we need to own them?
Experience it.
No.
Make it part of your daily life.
No. No.
Understand
Embrace.
why they are there.
Yes. Own them. Own them. Understand that they are you. They are a reflection of you. There's no answer outside of you for any of them. Okay? The important thing is how we approach the 3 obstacles and 4 devils. Is it that the Gohanzen isn't working now? Or is that, shit, I'm meeting the 3 obstacles and 4 devils. I must be progressing in my practice. Okay? We need to own them, means that we take full responsibility for what we're experiencing. We're not blaming anything else. We decided we want to become Buddhists. These are all being brought about by virtue of that determination that we independently decided on our own. Nobody twisted our arm. Nobody even thought we could. Okay? The important thing is how we approach the 3 obstacles and 4 devils. We need to own them, to look at them as something we ourselves have summoned up. Right? What do we as bodhisattvas of the earth have done? We have deliberately created the appropriate karma. What was the appropriate karma? What we wanted it to be to express Buddhahood in the latter day. Do you understand? We want our appropriate karma is what we want to show off our Buddhahood about. Do you understand? Because we're original disciples, man. This is like, not because we're such shits. Do you understand? Okay. It may seem that we are being assailed by the 3 obstacles and 4 devils as we suffer in the 9 worlds through them. But the reality is just the opposite. If we get in front of the Gohonzon, we'll understand that too. If we'll chant about them rather than worry about them, we'll understand them. Because we have voluntarily set ourselves to the task of climbing the peak of Buddhahood, not these hills of benefit. Do you understand? He's making that distinction very clearly there with the way he's analogously speaking of this. Hills of benefit, mountain of Buddhahood. All right? Because we have voluntarily set ourselves to the task of climbing the peak of Buddhahood, voluntarily, we decided to do it, they have arisen. Because we decided. So we summoned them. We absolutely did summon them by deciding we were audacious enough to decide we want to be Buddhists. It's guaranteed in the teaching. If you do this shit's going to hit the fan. Hit the fan. I can handle it. All right? The fact that we encounter these obstacles and devilish functions is proof that we are upholding the correct teaching and advancing in the right direction, as much as that's counterintuitive. We are in charge. We are in charge. We are the protagonists, the good guys. The 3 obstacles and 4 devils are trials we must surmount to attain lasting happiness imbued with the noble virtues of Buddhahood. For those who have made this their resolve, the struggle against the 3 obstacles and 4 devils is indeed a great joy. Do you understand? What's he saying there? We are in charge. So what does that mean? We are the protagonists.
We decided to take the vow.
Yeah. Can we be defeated?
No.
No, the protagonist is never defeated. Right? The good guy in the story, in the movie, he always wins. The guy with the white hat. We're the guys with the white hat. That's the protagonist. We're never defeated by the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils. Not if we're actually the Buddhas that we proclaim ourselves to be as disciples of Nichiren. Do you understand? It's only a weakness in that faith that allows us not to be able to perceive and accomplish that. The 3 obstacles and 4 devils are trials we must surmount to attain Buddhahood. You with me?
Yeah.
All right. He says, I am reminded of something that took place in July 1958. I was traveling over the rough seas from the port of Nagita to Sado Island. It was only a few months after Mr. Toda's death. The weather was bad, and there was a strong possibility that ferry services to the island would be canceled later. I therefore quickly boarded the waiting ferry so that I could go ahead with my planned trip to encourage our dedicated members there. The ferry was buffeted by waves for 4 hours, and the leaders traveling with me suffered terribly from seasickness. I stood on the deck thinking of our steadfast members who were continuing their struggles after the passing of our late mentor. President Toda's died by now. Gazing into the distance over the stormy sea, I envisioned the future course of the great vessel of the people, the good ship Soka Gakkai, the good ship Lollipop. No, the good ship Soka Gakkai, plowing through the surging waves. As Nichiren writes, when a tiger roars, gales blow. When a dragon intones, clouds gather. When we adopt the attitude, I summoned this storm, our hearts will be filled with the bright sense of hope and purpose. When we view ourselves as the Buddha, when this isn't theoretical, why I sound so radically crazy so often, I believe this shit with my whole life. Okay? When he talks about this, I summoned this storm. That's the faith that Mr. Matsuoka and Mr. Osaki taught me. That's what I'm trying to help you understand. You know, get into it. It's a role you asked for. you might as well play it to the limit. Right? He says, I summoned this storm. Why shouldn't you be just like Nichiren Daishonin looking over the Sea of Japan? There's no difference between your life and his. Nichiren Daishonin's life was not more powerful than your own. I make no slander in saying that. All lives have the same power. It's whether or not they have the wisdom to perceive the truth. Let's see. Okay, yeah. The Daishonin taught his embattled disciples to face adversity with joyous faith that comes from standing up courageously on their own initiative, like Daisaku Ikeda, like Josei Toda, like President Makaguchi, pardon me. Unless one steers straight into the waves, President Ikeda is saying, the boat will be capsized. In the same way, we must never give in to or fear devils. The only thing to do is to face them head on. To face them head on. That's the way to forge the instructable life state of Buddhahood. So what he's saying is that it might seem, because the more that you try to get to this state of advance, the stronger this resistance may appear, right? And so what he's saying, the only way to do this is to face them head on. If you let them frighten you so that you pull back, when you pull back, you will see the resistance go away. You'll see relief from what was bothering you. You can also stop your obstacle in that way. Abandon trying to overcome it through faith. It'll go away, because what you just did is you just gave the victory to the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils. Yeah. Okay, you didn't get a victory, because it's not about an individual instance, right? So he's saying, that's the way to forge the indestructible life state of Buddhahood, the one that never falters, that never wavers. You want me to continue? I'll stop here. We've been going an hour. That's good enough. I can finish it next week. Okay. So we'll continue on page 137, standing at a crucial juncture, because that I don't want to get that separated from the rest of this. So again, thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.